How's it going, everyone? Bass here. So it is that time. It is time to start diving down into the draft for us Packers fans, primarily with mock drafts. If you've been a part of this channel, over the past 2 years, I've done a lot of mock drafts during the offseason, during draft season, where basically I go over all the Packers' positional needs, what players in this upcoming draft would fit said needs, and all of the above. So considering it's still really early in the process, there's still teams that aren't even worrying about the draft as they are still in the playoffs, couldn't be us Packers fans. And considering the draft order isn't even official yet, for the first mock draft of the 2023 offseason, I am going to be doing just a 3-round mock draft. Now, of course, as time goes on and we get deeper into draft season, I will be doing a 7-round mock draft every single week. So if that does interest you, please go down, hit the subscribe button, leave a like on the video if you enjoy this sort of thing, and turn on post notifications. Hopefully over the next 3 months, we can learn a lot about the draft process and what players fit the Packers' needs and all of that. So before we go into the mock draft simulator here, I want to quickly talk about the Packers' needs. Now, these are in no order, but first I have safety. I think the Packers have a big need at safety, and I believe they need to draft one within the first 3 rounds. With Adrian Amos being an impending free agent, Rudy Ford being an impending free agent, they did accept Darnell Savage's 5th-year option, but do we really want him to be our starting safety again next year? Very inconsistent last year, got benched, pretty much got relegated to special teams at one point, came back as a nickel corner type role, did okay, but do you want him being your deep free safety in this defense, next year? I don't think you really do. I do believe the Packers will bring back one of Adrian Amos or Rudy Ford. We'll see exactly how that goes down, but as of right now, safety is still a big need. And as another need on defense is edge. After Rashawn Gary tore his ACL, I feel like the Packers got no pressure. Although Kingsley Enagbare, looks like a steal in that 5th round of last draft and looked really good, and Preston Smith had a pretty solid year, they just didn't really get much pressure on the quarterback, and that showed very true the last week of the season against the Lions. 0 sacks on Jared Goff and just no real pressure, and that's part of the reason why the Lions won that game. Not to mention, when will Rashawn Gary return from the torn ACL? Highly doubt it's going to be anywhere near week 1, more so mid-season mark is what I'm thinking. So the Packers are going to need rotational edge guys. Even if Rashawn Gary was healthy, I do believe they still need to draft another edge guy. So I believe that's another need for the first 3 rounds. As for offense, I think they could draft a wide receiver early. Alan Lazard, impending free agent, seems like he doesn't want to come back. They're really just relegated to 3 second-year players with Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Samori Toure, which is a good thing. Randall Cobb, also an impending free agent. Who knows if he comes back or retires, or Aaron Rodgers comes back and pretty much says, hey, I want Randall Cobb back again. We'll see how that all plays out, but I do believe the Packers should go after a nice outside wide receiver in the early rounds of this draft. As for a couple other positions, tight end is one of them. I think the Packers need to kind of revamp the tight end position. I do want Mercedes Lewis back, but I think they just need a true vertical receiving threat tight end, something they really haven't had since Jermichael Finley. We've seen shades of it with Robert Tonyan, and then he tore his ACL and really didn't have a good year this past season, but I think they could get a nice vertical, true receiving threat tight end in this draft. And then also tackle. They could end up getting a swing tackle to maybe play that right side of the line as a depth guy. I do believe they have enough depth guys with the interior of the offensive line. Sean Ryan, Jake Hansen, Zach Tom can play the interior. As for tackle, Josh Nijman is a restricted free agent. I do believe they bring him back, and I do believe they keep David Bakhtiari in the building, but they could always use another swing tackle as depth. All right, so without further ado, let's bring up the draft screen here. We're going to be using PFF's mock draft simulator. I usually use the draft networks, but theirs isn't ready yet, so for this one, this 3-round mock draft, we're going to be using PFF. As we see, we set it here to 3 rounds. The Green Bay Packers are picking at pick 15, so if we go ahead and enter this draft here, we see Chicago, Houston Texans, Arizona Cardinals are the first 3 picks. For this first one, we're not going to do any trades. It's a simple 3-round mock draft. Now, down the line, when I start doing my 7-rounders, I will start implementing trades because obviously trades do happen in the draft. But as for right now, considering the draft order isn't even official and it's not even truly the end of the season, we're going with a pretty simple vanilla 3-round mock draft here, and we'll start this going through the first 5 picks here. Jalen Carter, Bryce Young, Will Anderson. I think those 3 might go exactly that way. Will Levis goes at 4. And then we see Miles Murphy at 5. I know a lot of people either like Will Levis or hate him. So we'll see how that goes if he gets picked over CJ Stroud. I don't know if that's going to happen. I could definitely see it happening. But Jalen Carter is kind of that consensus number 1, him or Will Anderson. Bryce Young is most likely going to go to the Houston Texans unless there's a trade there to jump the Houston Texans if someone jumps to number 1, trading with the Bears. Will Anderson, Will Levis, Miles Murphy, another good edge there. So let's get the next 5 picks out of the way. So the next 5 picks, we have CJ Stroud going to the Detroit Lions. I would not like that. I think he will be a pretty good quarterback in this league. Anthony Richardson, another quarterback off the board in the top 7, going to the Las Vegas Raiders. Tyree Wilson, an edge player here, going to the Falcons. Brian Breezy, a defensive lineman, going to the Panthers, and tackle Paris Johnson to the Eagles. All right, so now let's go through the next 4 picks until the Green Bay Packers do pick here. We'll quickly get this simulated here since we cannot trade, or else I'd maybe be looking into trade. So on this board, we see Devon Witherspoon, cornerback, goes to the Tennessee Titans. Another cornerback, Christian Gonzalez from Oregon, to the Houston Texans. Safety, Brian Branch, a player I do like, and I think the Packers should be targeting at pick 15 if he does last there. Same with Peter Skoronski here. Good tackle. I do believe the Packers could target him at 15, but both of those are picked before the Green Bay Packers, and we are on the clock at 15. We're going to look at some of the talent on the board here. Quentin Johnson is the main player sticking out to me right now. I think he would be a huge addition to this offense. Having Christian Watson, Quentin Johnson, and Romeo Doubs on this offense, I think would be insane. Lucas Van Ness, edge player here. Michael Mayer, another guy that I'm very tempted. I'm very, very tempted just because what he could bring to this tight end room. That's something that the Packers haven't had in a very, very long time. But it goes against my usual saying. I do not like tight ends in the first round. And I know Michael Mayer is different, but just in my opinion, I just don't like it in the first round. Bijan Robinson, I feel he's going to go before our pick. I think someone's going to try to take this running back. I believe he is a top 15 pick at running back here. Zay Flowers, wide receiver. And we also see Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's another receiver that I really like, and Jordan Addison here. All 3 receivers, Njigba, Addison, and Quentin Johnson, I really, really like. But I do believe Quentin Johnson is the best out of those 3. If we bring up his PFF grades here, we see in 2022, he had a 77.0 receiving grade, a 3.05 yards per route run, which is really high, a 34.8 contested catch rate. A problem with Quentin Johnson is he does have a little bit of a drop issue, 11.8% drop rate with 8 drops on the season. His grade versus man coverage, a 73.9. If we see in 2022, he had 60 receptions on 97 targets, 1,067 yards, 6 touchdowns, 17.8 yards per reception, and we see he's primarily an outside wide receiver, not taking many snaps out of the slot, and that makes sense, him being 6'4". Even though Quentin Johnson is 6'4", he definitely does not lack speed. He has great size to speed ratio. His route running definitely could improve. He's pretty decent at it, and like I said, he does have a drop issue. His hips could get a little bit better, but I do believe he's one of the best, if not the best, wide receivers in this draft class, and I just believe he would fit right into the Packers offense if they do indeed lose Allen Lazard as an X or a Z wide receiver. And for that case, for our first ever mock draft, our first ever first round selection is going to be Quentin Johnson, wide receiver out of TCU here at pick 15. Quickly want to go over all the remainder picks out of the first round as I just simulated it through. The Washington Commanders took Michael Mayer. Jackson Smith and Jigba went to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Zay Flowers, another wide receiver, to the Lions. Tanner McKee, quarterback, to the Buccaneers. Lucas Van Ness to the Seahawks. Bijan Robinson to the Jaguars. That would be insane if they somehow got him at 21, pairing him up with Travis Etienne. I wouldn't see them needing to draft him at all. Giants took Anton Harrison, tackle here. Cam Smith at cornerback to the Ravens. Osiris Torrance to the Chargers here, a guard. Luke Musgrave, tight end, to the Cowboys. Nolan Smith, edge, to the Bengals. Trenton Simpson, linebacker, to the Vikings. Antonio Johnson, safety, to the Broncos. Jordan Addison fell all the way to 29 here. I think that guy will go before 29. Wide receiver from USA to the Bills. Be insane if the Bills ended up getting him at 29 somehow. Broderick Jones, tackle, to the Chiefs, and BJ Ojulari, edge, to the Eagles. Now moving up to our second round pick 45 in the second round, just to go over the picks right before it. Andre Carter to the Steelers, Siaki Ika to the Texans here, Dalton Kincaid to the Cardinals, Joey Porter Jr. to the Colts, Josh Downs to the Rams, Will McDonald IV to the Seahawks, Latu to the Raiders, Eli Ricks to the Panthers, Kalijah Cansey to the Saints, Jamie Robinson to the Titans, another safety I really liked. I wish he fell. A couple more picks to our pick here. Kaylee Ringo to the Browns, Nathaniel Dell to the Jets, and Drew Sanders to the Falcons. So for this pick in the second round here, I'm looking for a edge defender. Now, I do see Mike Morris here, but I don't really think he fits the Packers scheme. I think he's around 290 pounds. He's more of a true defensive end. I do really like him, and if the Packers were to bring in a new defensive coordinator and switch to a 4-3, he would be my pick here, but I just don't think that's the case. I don't think that's going to happen. So then I move down to Felix Anudike-Uzomah. I hope I pronounced that right, out of Kansas State, edge player here. If we go ahead and look at his PFF grades here, a 73.0 pass rush grade, 67.7 run defense grade, a really nice 15.9% pass rush win rate, and also a nice 8.1 run stop win rate. In 2022, a little less of a year than he had in 2021. He had 8 sacks, 9 quarterback hits, and 29 hurries. In 2021, 13 sacks, 5 hits, and 25 hurries. He's a solid pass rusher. He's a solid run defender, and the Packers need both of those. He is a little bit raw, but he fits the Packers mold there, 6'4", 255. I do really like him as an edge player in the second round for the Green Bay Packers. And as I was saying, I believe the Packers need to draft an edge player early, first, second, or third, or even fourth round. I think the Packers are going to end up drafting an edge player. So in the second round, for this first ever mock draft, pick 45, I'm going to Felix Anudike-Uzomah out of Kansas State. The last time the Green Bay Packers drafted a Kansas State player in the second round, it worked out pretty well. In the third round, the Green Bay Packers pick at pick 78, and this will be our final pick in this first ever mock draft of the 2023 season. Just a 3-rounder here. In this third round, I'm going to be looking at safety. I would have liked to get the safety done quicker. Someone like Jamie Robinson in the second round, but he got drafted a few picks before ours. So that brings me to the next best player at safety here, and it's actually one of the better players available on the board here at pick 78, and a player I do like myself, Jordan Battle, safety out of Alabama. If we look at his stats via PFF, we see in 2021 he had his best grade in 88.0. In 2022, still a good grade in 81.5. This dude is a true deep safety, playing 574 snaps this year. He can also play in the box with 196 snaps, and he can play some slot, 129 snaps. His forced incompletion rate, a 9.1%. Run defense grade, a good one, 72.5. A really, really good coverage grade, 85.2. A little high on the missed tackle rate, 11.8% with the 8 missed tackles, but he missed 8 tackles as well as in 2021. Still had that very, very high grade. I like him as a true safety in this Packers defense, someone you pair with someone like Adrian Amos or Rudy Ford, depending on if they bring one of those guys back. He can be a true coverage safety, a deep box safety, but you can also use him in many different ways. He's a versatile, high IQ, and physical safety that I think fits perfectly into this Green Bay defense. So for the final pick of my first ever 2023 Green Bay Packers mock draft in the third round here at pick 78, we are going safety Jordan Battle out of Alabama. So that does it for this 3-round Green Bay Packers mock draft. This is the first one on my channel in 2023, as I said, so a lot is going to change in the next 3 months. It's January 17th as I'm making this video. Some of these players may rise tremendously and some may fall a lot as well. So Quentin Johnson may not even be available at 15, and some of these other players might not be available either. So a lot is going to change, but this is just like a preliminary, getting a mock draft out there and starting to learn who some of these players are and where they'll fall. And these draft grades on the right here, not even batting an eye to them. Draft grades mean absolutely nothing, especially when it's January of the draft year. But I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think of this first ever Green Bay Packers 3-round mock draft? Let me know if you like my picks or if you saw another player on the board that you were going, oh, you should have picked him. That would have fit the team better, or something of that sort. Leave that down in the comments below. And as I said, I will start doing full 7-round mock drafts, including trades and all of that sort here in the near future. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Pack Go.